On a cold, rainy evening in a quiet American town, David Carter sat alone in his dimly lit kitchen, the weight of the world heavy on his shoulders. The soft tapping of rain against the window seemed to echo the storm brewing inside his heart. In front of him lay an eviction notice, its bold red letters delivering a brutal reminder of the job he had just lost at the local factory. His hands trembled as he stared at the paper, wondering how everything had unraveled so quickly. Bills piled up, groceries ran low, and the future looked darker than ever. Just then, his 10-year-old daughter, Lily, quietly walked in, her innocent eyes filled with worry. She clutched her worn-out teddy bear, sensing her father's distress, though too young to understand the full weight of their troubles. She softly asked, "Daddy, will everything be okay?" Her small voice broke the heavy silence, pulling David back from his spiral of fear and uncertainty. David looked at her, his heart aching. He didn't want her to feel the fear that consumed him. He forced a weak smile, trying to mask the hopelessness in his eyes, and reached out to gently brush her hair aside. "God has a plan for us, sweetheart, we just have to believe," he said softly. His words sounded steady, but inside, he wasn't sure if he believed them himself. In that quiet kitchen, the contrast between his comforting words and the sadness in his eyes was clear. Despite the overwhelming uncertainty, David's love for his daughter pushed him to hold on to even the smallest flicker of hope. Unknowingly, this moment would become the first step in a journey neither of them could have imagined, a journey of unexpected miracles and restored faith. In a small, cozy diner nestled at the corner of town, David worked tirelessly, scrubbing dishes and wiping down tables. He had taken on the job after losing everything, trying to earn whatever little he could to keep food on the table for Lily. Though the work was hard and the pay barely enough, David remained humble and kind, often giving away his own tips to a young waitress named Emily, who was also struggling to support her sick mother. Sitting in his usual corner booth was Mr. Thompson, an elderly man with silver hair and kind but watchful eyes. He visited the diner every morning, sipping his coffee and quietly observing everyone around him. Over time, he began to notice David's quiet acts of kindness, how he helped customers without expecting anything in return, and how he often skipped his own meals so others could eat. Intrigued by David's gentle nature, Mr. Thompson finally decided to speak with him. One afternoon, as David wiped down the counter, Mr. Thompson called him over. "You always help others, even when you're the one who needs help the most," Mr. Thompson remarked, his voice warm but curious. David looked up, his face worn from long days but his eyes still soft with humility. He gave a faint smile and replied, "Sometimes, kindness is all you have to give." Mr. Thompson nodded slowly, touched by the sincerity in David's voice. Though David's clothes were worn and his shoes nearly falling apart, his heart seemed richer than most. In that brief exchange, something unspoken passed between them, a silent understanding, a seed of hope quietly planted. David had no idea that this simple act of kindness would soon change his life forever in ways he never imagined. A week later, the diner buzzed with its usual morning crowd. The scent of fresh coffee filled the air as David moved quickly between the kitchen and the dining area, balancing dishes and clearing tables. Mr. Thompson sat in his usual booth, sipping his coffee, watching the world pass by through the foggy window. Suddenly, a loud clatter broke the hum of conversation. Mr. Thompson's cup slipped from his hand, shattering on the floor. He gasped for air, his face paling as he clutched his chest and slumped over the table. Panic swept through the diner. Without hesitation, David dropped everything and rushed to him. "Somebody call an ambulance," he shouted, but he didn't wait for others to act. He gently helped Mr. Thompson lie down on the booth seat, loosening his collar, speaking calmly to reassure him. "It's going to be okay. Just hold on," David said firmly, gripping the old man's hand tightly. Moments felt like hours, but David never left his side. He kept talking, his voice steady, trying to keep Mr. Thompson conscious. Soon, the wail of sirens filled the air as paramedics arrived and surrounded them. As they prepared to take Mr. Thompson away, the elderly man weakly opened his eyes and, with what little strength he had left, grasped David's hand firmly. His voice was faint but clear enough to leave a lasting mark. "I knew there was something special about you, Mr. Thompson," whispered, his eyes filled with gratitude. "Never lose hope." With that, he was taken away, leaving David standing there, shaken but moved by the words that lingered in his heart. He had saved a life, but he didn't know then that this moment would soon change his own life in a way he could never have imagined. Several days passed, and the weight of worry hung heavily over David's heart. He often found himself thinking about Mr. Thompson, wondering if he had recovered. One quiet afternoon, as rain softly tapped against the windows of his small apartment, there was a knock at the door. David opened it to find a sharply dressed man holding an envelope. "Mr. Carter," the man asked politely. "I'm Mr. Thompson's attorney. He instructed me to deliver this to you." Puzzled, David took the envelope with trembling hands. He sat at the kitchen table, Lily watching curiously from across the room, and carefully opened it. Inside was a letter in Mr. Thompson's familiar, shaky handwriting, along with official legal documents. As David began to read, his hands shook and his voice wavered. "David, you showed me that kindness still exists in this world. You gave without expecting anything in return. You stayed by my side when I was at my weakest, not because you had to, but because it was who you are. I've lived a long life, but I was lonely, with no family left. In you, I saw the heart I had searched for all my life. You taught me to believe again. Now, it's your turn to live the life you deserve. I have left you everything, my home, my savings, everything I own. Never lose hope. God truly has a plan for you." Tears streamed down David's face as he finished reading. His breath caught in his throat as the truth sank in. Mr. Thompson had left him a generous inheritance that would change everything. David wept openly, overwhelmed by the unexpected blessing that had arrived just when he needed it most. In that moment, he realized that every act of kindness had led him here. His faith had not been in vain, God's plan had been unfolding all along. On a bright Sunday morning, the town streets buzzed with curiosity and excitement. The once struggling diner worker, David Carter, now stood proudly beside his daughter, Lily, outside their beautiful new home, a home that once belonged to Mr. Thompson. But what truly drew the neighbors was not the house itself, but what stood beside it, a brand new community food kitchen, its doors wide open and its sign gleaming in the morning sun, Thompson's Table, a place for hope. David, dressed simply but with a heart full of purpose, stood at the entrance with Lily by his side. Friends, neighbors, and even strangers gathered, many of whom had been through their own silent battles with poverty and hardship. They watched as David welcomed the first guests inside, offering warm meals with a smile that radiated sincerity and compassion. Inside, laughter echoed and plates filled quickly. No one was turned away. The same kindness David had shown quietly at the diner now shined here for all to see. It wasn't just a food kitchen, it was a beacon of hope, born from both struggle and grace. As the sun bathed the town in golden light, David looked around, his heart full, and then turned toward the crowd. His voice was calm, steady, and filled with gratitude. "I thought I had lost everything," David said, his eyes glistening. He paused for a moment, glancing at Lily, who smiled back proudly. Then he continued, his words carrying across the gathering crowd, "But God had a plan, bigger than I ever imagined. Never lose hope." The crowd erupted in applause, but David knew it wasn't about him, it was about the message that had carried him through the darkest nights: kindness, faith, and the unwavering belief that every storm leads to brighter days.